Max sat at his desk finishing his homework. His room was dimly lit, the only light coming from his desk lamp. Max yawned as he scribbled the last few answers in his notebook. He felt tired, but was determined to complete his work before bed. As he flipped through the pages, his eyelids grew heavy. His pencil slipped from his fingers and his head nodded forward. Before he knew it, Max had fallen asleep right at his desk. In his dream, he found himself floating in the vastness of space. The stars shimmered around him like a sea of glittering jewels. Suddenly, a sleek spaceship appeared, gliding silently through the void. Max watched in awe as the ship's doors opened, revealing a bright, inviting light. Without hesitation, he floated inside and found himself in a futuristic control room. Were covered in glowing screens displaying star maps and data. An unfamiliar voice echoed through the room, welcoming him aboard. Max turned and saw a holographic figure smiling warmly at him. The figure introduced itself as the ship's AI, offering to take him on a journey through the galaxy. Excitedly, Max agreed and took a seat in the captain's chair. The ship's engines hummed to life and they soared through space at incredible speed. Out the window, marveling at the planets and nebulas they passed. The AI pointed out different celestial wonders, explaining their unique features. As they traveled, Max felt a sense of freedom and wonder he had never experienced before. But just as they approached a magnificent glowing nebula, a loud sound startled him. Max jolted awake, blinking in confusion as he looked around his room. His desk lamp flickered and he realized he had been dreaming. With a smile, Max closed his notebook, feeling inspired by his cosmic adventure. One late summer night, a boy named Sam settled on his couch to watch a sci-fi movie. The plot was exciting, but as the night wore on, Sam's eyelids grew heavy. Before he knew it, he drifted off to sleep, the sound of the movie fading away. In his dream, Sam found himself in his own town, but everything felt eerie and strange. The sky was an unnatural shade of red, and a low, ominous hum filled the air. Suddenly, a massive spaceship appeared above the town square, casting a shadow over the building. The townspeople looked up in terror as smaller ships descended, hovering just above the ground. Sam watched in awe as beams of light shot out from the ships, causing panic among the people. The ships released strange floating orbs that emitted a blinding light. As the orbs floated through the streets, they scanned the buildings and people with a mechanical precision. A chill run down his spine as he realized the ships were searching for something. The ground shook as more ships arrived, their engines roaring like thunder. Sam tried to hide, but was drawn to the chaos unfolding before him. Suddenly, a loudspeaker crackled to life, broadcasting an alien language. To his horror, Sam understood the message. They were here to take over the town. He watched as the aliens, tall and metallic, emerged from... They moved with a synchronized grace. The townspeople were paralyzed with fear, unable to resist the invaders. Sam knew he had to do something, but felt powerless in the face of such advanced technology. As he struggled with his fear, a smaller ship landed near him. The door opened, revealing a control panel with alien symbols. Sam felt an inexplicable urge to approach it. He reached out and touched the panel, and suddenly, a map of the town appeared, highlighting key locations. Realizing this could be the key to stopping the invasion, Sam quit just as he was about to act. A blaring alarm jolted him awake. More than anything in the world. His room was filled with all kinds of robot toys, from tiny ones that moved on wheels to large ones with flashing lights. One evening, after an exciting day of playing with his robots, Ethan climbed into bed. His favorite robot toy close and closed his eyes, feeling sleepy. As he drifted off to sleep, his thoughts were filled with the clanking and whirring of robots. In his dream, Ethan found himself in a futuristic town where everything seemed metallic and shiny. The buildings were tall and sleek, with gears and circuits embedded in their walls. Suddenly, the ground began to rumble, and Ethan looked up to see enormous robots marching into the town. These robots were unlike any he had ever seen, towering over the buildings and emitting a powerful electric hum. The townspeople ran in fear as the robots began to take control, their red eyes glowing menacingly. Ethan felt a mixture of awe and fear as he watched the invasion unfold. The robots moved with precision, their metal limbs clanking with each step. They quickly took over the town, replacing streetlights with laser towers and transforming cars into mechanical drones. Ethan realized that these robots were preparing the town for something much bigger. He noticed a massive spider-like robot climbing the tallest building, planting a strange device at the top. The device started to pulse with energy, sending waves of electricity through the town. Ethan knew he had to do something to stop the robots from completing their takeover. Gathering his courage, he ran towards the spider robot, determined to reach the device. As he climbed the building, the air crackled with electricity, and he could feel the power. Reaching the top, Ethan grabbed a loose cable and yanked it out, hoping to The device sputtered and sparked, causing the robots below to glitch and stumble. The spider robot turned its glowing red eyes towards Ethan, but before it could react, the entire device exploded. The shockwave sent Ethan flying backward, and he tumbled through the air, everything going dark. He jolted awake, back in his bed with his favorite robot toy still clutched in his arms. Ethan smiled, realizing it had all been a dream, but the excitement of the robot invasion lingered in. A boy named Jack was cleaning his messy room one afternoon, trying to put away his toys and clothes. He sighed as he picked up his toy sword and pirate hat, wishing he could be out on an adventure instead. Tired, Jack sat down on his bed for a moment's rest, holding the sword in his hand. Before he knew it, his eyes grew heavy and he drifted off to sleep. In his dream, Jack found himself on the deck of a grand pirate ship with the wind blowing through his hair. He looked down and saw he was dressed as a pirate captain, complete with a hat and a long coat. The sea stretched out before him, glittering under the sun, and his ship was cutting through the waves. Around him, a crew of loyal pirates cheered him on, ready for the next adventure. Jack grinned and took the helm, steering the ship toward the horizon in search of hidden treasure. The ship sailed past lush islands with towering palm trees and white sandy beaches. Jack's map showed the way to several islands, each with a different clue leading to the treasure. The first island was filled with dense jungle, where Jack and his crew had to fight off wild animals. After finding a hidden cave, they discovered the first piece of the treasure, a sparkling ruby. The second island was surrounded by treacherous reefs, but Jack skillfully guided the ship through them. On the island, they encountered a rival pirate crew and a fierce battle ensued. Jack's crew won the fight, claiming a golden chest filled with ancient coins. The final island was a mysterious place covered in mist with strange sounds echoing through. Jack and his crew ventured deep into the island, where they found an ancient temple guarded by stone statues. Inside the temple, they solved riddles and avoided traps until they discovered the ultimate treasure, a chest overflowing with jewels, gold, and magical items. As Jack held the compass, it began to glow, revealing a path to even greater. Just as Jack was about to set sail for the next journey, a loud noise startled him. He opened his eyes and found himself back in his room, still holding his toy sword. The noise was his alarm clock, reminding him it was time to finish cleaning. Jack smiled, feeling a sense of excitement from his dream, and he decided that his next adventure would be even better. Jason had been playing his favorite RPG game for hours, eyes glued to the computer screen. The game transported him to a magical kingdom where knights fought dragons and saved princesses. As the night wore on, Jason's eyes grew heavy, and he finally shut down his computer. He collapsed onto his bed, still thinking about the battles he fought in the game. Soon, sleep overtook him and his dreams began to blur with the game's fantasy world. In his dream, Jason awoke to find himself standing in the middle of a vast green field. He was no longer a tired boy in pajamas, but a knight in shining armor, a sword strapped to his side. castle loomed in the distance, and Jason felt an unexplainable pull toward it. As he approached the castle, he heard the sound of panic and fear echoing through the courtyard. "The dragon is coming!" a villager shouted as people ran in every direction. Jason's heart raced, but he knew he had to protect the kingdom. He mounted a sturdy black horse that had appeared by his side and charged toward the danger. Dark clouds swirled in the sky and the ground shook as the mighty dragon descended. The dragon's eyes glowed like embers and its scales shimmered with dark magic. With a deafening roar, the dragon unleashed a torrent of flames that scorched the earth. Jason gripped his sword, feeling its magical power surge through him and charged toward the beast. The dragon's fiery breath came inches from him, but he dodged with lightning reflexes. Jason swung his sword with all his might, but the dragon's scales were tough as steel. The beast roared in anger, swiping at Jason with its massive claw. Jason rolled out of the way just in time, his armor clanking as he regained his footing. Gathering all his courage, Jason leaped onto the dragon's back and aimed for its vulnerable spot. His sword plunged deep into the dragon's hide, and the creature let out a final ear-splitting roar. As the dragon fell, its dark magic dissipated, and the sky cleared. The villagers cheered as Jason stood victorious, the dragon vanquished and the kingdom saved. Jason awoke in his bed, heart pounding, and wondered if it had all been just a dream. Ethan sat in the quiet library, surrounded by stacks of books about space. He had been reading for hours, completely absorbed in the mysteries of the universe. From black holes to distant galaxies, each page took him deeper into the cosmos. The dim library light and the quiet hum of the air conditioning lulled him into a calm state. Eventually, his eyes grew heavy, and he laid his head on the table. Before he knew it, he drifted off to sleep, the books still open around him. In his dream, Ethan found himself floating weightlessly in the vast expanse of space. Stars glittered like diamonds all around him, and the Milky Way stretched out like a ribbon of light. Suddenly, a sleek spaceship appeared in front of him, its metallic surface gleaming. Without hesitation, Ethan drifted toward it, feeling an irresistible pull. As he entered the ship, the doors closed behind him with a soft hiss. The interior was filled with futuristic technology, and the controls seemed to call out to him. pilot's seat, and the ship's engines roared to life. With a burst of speed, Ethan was hurtling through space, passing planets and asteroids in a blur. Ahead, a massive space station loomed, its lights blinking like a beacon in the darkness. He docked the ship and stepped out into the station, marveling at the advanced alien technology. Strange creatures from distant worlds moved about, and Ethan felt a sense of awe and excitement. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station, and a voice announced, "Incoming danger." Ethan looked out the window to see a swarm of enemy ships approaching, their weapons ready to fire. Without hesitation, he rushed back to his ship, determined to protect the station. The battle that followed was intense, with laser blasts lighting up the darkness of space. Ethan maneuvered the ship with expert precision, dodging enemy fire and countering with powerful blasts of his own. After a fierce battle, the enemy ships were defeated and the station was safe. The aliens on the station cheered, and Ethan felt a surge of pride as a hero of the galaxy. Suddenly, Ethan awoke in the library, the quiet hum returning, and wondered if it had all been a dream. Liam had just finished a fun and tiring cooking activity at school. The smell of sizzling pans and fresh herbs still clung to his clothes as he made his way to the school's sleeping quarters. He lay down on his bunk, exhausted but happy, and soon drifted off to sleep. In his dream, Liam found himself standing in a peculiar town, unlike any he had ever seen. The buildings were made from giant stoves, with burners glowing faintly like warm windows. The streets were lined with forks and knives, forming neat rows as far as the eye could see. As he walked, he noticed the street lamps were giant pepper grinders, casting a soft, warm glow. The sidewalks were made of buttered toast, and every step released a satisfying crunch underfoot. Liam marveled at a towering fountain of bubbling tomato soup in the town square. Nearby, enormous spaghetti strands twisted around street signs like vines. In the distance, he saw a giant oven the size of a skyscraper. As he approached, the smell of baking bread filled the air, making his stomach rumble. The buildings closest to the oven were made of crispy golden baguettes, stacked high like bricks. The townspeople were made of different foods, like walking, talking vegetables, and fruits. A friendly tomato waved at him, offering a slice of pizza from a cart made of cheese wheels. Liam eagerly accepted and took a bite, the flavors bursting in his mouth. Suddenly, a giant ladle appeared, scooping up soup from the fountain and pouring it into a nearby bowl-shaped. The town's clock tower was a towering stack of pots and pans, clanging together melodiously as the hour struck. Curious, Liam wandered into a bakery where ovens as large as houses baked cakes the size of coffee. The baker, a jolly rolling pin with a chef's hat, invited Liam to help decorate a massive cupcake. Liam grabbed a piping bag filled with frosting and swirled it over the cupcake's surface. As he worked, the entire town began to hum with the sound of bubbling stew, sizzling bacon, and clinking utensils. giant oven doors opened, revealing perfectly baked pastries that floated out like clouds. The food-filled town felt alive and magical, as if every dish and utensil had a story to tell. Just as Liam finished his cupcake masterpiece, he awoke in the school's sleeping quarters, still tasting the dream's delicious. Jake stood at the kitchen sink, scrubbing the last of the dinner dishes. The warm water and rhythmic clinking of plates made his eyelids grow heavy. As he rinsed the final plate, he leaned against the counter, eyes closing without him realizing. In his dream, Jake found himself deep in a dense jungle. The air was humid, filled with the sounds of exotic birds and rustling leaves. In his hand was a worn map, showing the way to a lost civilization hidden within the jungle. Determined, Jake began to make his way through the dense foliage, using a machete to clear his path. The jungle was alive with mysterious sounds, every rustle and snap making his heart race with anticipation. After hours of trekking, he came upon an ancient stone staircase. He cautiously climbed the steps, each one echoing with the history of the forgotten civilization. At the top, Jake gasped as he saw a massive stone temple, its carvings. The temple was surrounded by crumbling statues of warriors and gods, their faces worn by time. As he approached the entrance, he noticed strange symbols etched into the stone, glowing faintly. The heavy stone doors creaked open as if welcoming him inside. Inside the temple, the air was cool and filled with the scent of earth and ancient stone. Jake lit a torch and walked down a long corridor, the walls covered in intricate carvings of battles and rituals. At the end of the corridor, he discovered a grand chamber filled with treasures, golden artifacts, jeweled crowns, and mysterious relics. In the center of the chamber stood a pedestal holding a glowing crystal pulsing with an eerie light. Jake reached out to touch the crystal, feeling its warmth radiate through his hand. As his fingers brushed the surface, the entire temple began to shake, dust falling from the ceiling. Carvings moving as if telling their ancient story. Jake realized he had awakened something powerful, something that had been dormant for centuries. The temple's doors began to close and he sprinted toward the exit, the ground trembling beneath his feet. Just as he reached the outside, the doors slammed shut and the jungle became silent once more. Jake jolted awake at the sink, the sound of a dish clattering into the water, wondering if the lost civilization. Alex loved spending his afternoons playing Alien and RPG video games, immersing himself in strange. His room was filled with posters of fantastical creatures and heroic adventurers. Alex finally turned off his console and crawled into bed. As soon as his head hit the pillow, he drifted off to sleep, his mind still buzzing with thoughts of adventure. Alex found himself standing in front of a massive castle with towering stone walls. The sky was a deep purple, and 2 moons hung in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the land. The castle was surrounded by dense forests filled with mythical creatures, their eyes glowing in the dark. Armed with a magical sword and a shield emblazoned with a dragon, Alex felt the thrill. As he stepped through the castle gates, he was greeted by a group of elves and dwarves. "Welcome, adventurer," said a tall elf. Without hesitation, Alex joined the group and they began their journey. The walls were lined with ancient tapestries depicting battles between heroes and mythical beasts. As they ventured deeper, the air grew colder and strange sounds echoed from the shadows. Suddenly, a giant griffin swooped down from the raft. Alex raised his shield just in time to deflect the creature's sharp talons. The battle was fierce, but with the help of his new allies, Alex managed to defeat the griffin. As they continued, they encountered other creatures, goblins, trolls. Each battle tested Alex's courage, but he fought with determination, never backing down. Finally, they reached the heart of the castle, where a powerful sorcerer awaited them. The sorcerer's eyes glowed with dark magic as he summoned a horde of shadowy creatures to attack. Alex and his companions fought valiantly, their swords and spells clashing with the sorcerer. In a final epic showdown, Alex struck the sorcerer down with a powerful blow from his magical sword. The castle began to crumble, the dark magic fading as light returned to the land. As the castle walls collapsed around them, Alex and his friends escaped just in time. Alex awoke in his bed, heart pounding, feeling as though he had truly lived the adventure he had always dreamed of. Dylan knew he should be doing his laundry, but the cozy sofa in the living room looked far too inviting. He sat down intending to rest for just a moment, but soon his eyes grew heavy. Before he knew it, he had dozed off. The soft hum of the TV in the background lulling him into a deep sleep. In his dream, Dylan found himself standing in the middle of a bustling city, surrounded by towering skyscrapers and busy streets. The air was thick with the sounds of honking cars and murmuring crowds, and the city lights flickered like stars above him. He looked down and saw that he was dressed in a trench coat and fedora, a detective's badge gleaming on his chest. Thick fog rolled through the city streets, giving the night an air of mystery and suspense. Dylan had a case to solve. Someone had stolen a priceless artifact from the city's most secure museum. He began his investigation, visiting dark alleyways and questioning shady characters in dimly lit bars. Clues were scarce, but Dylan's keen eye caught a small torn piece of fabric near the museum's entrance. He followed the trail through the winding streets, the fabric leading him to an old, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The warehouse loomed before him, its windows shattered and doors creaking in the wind. As he entered, Dylan's heart raced, the darkness inside thick with the smell of dust and secrecy. He crept through the shadows, his flashlight cutting through the gloom, illuminating stacks of forgotten crates and cobweb-covered furniture. Suddenly, he heard a noise, a faint shuffle of footsteps behind him. Dylan spun around, just in time to see a figure darting behind a pillar. He gave chase, his footsteps echoing loudly in the empty space as he pursued the mysterious figure. The figure led him through a maze of narrow corridors until they finally emerged in a hidden room deep within the warehouse. In the center of the room, the stolen artifact gleamed under a single hanging light bulb. The figure turned to face him, revealing a masked thief with piercing eyes. Dylan drew his detective's revolver, aiming it steadily at the thief as they squared off. After a tense standoff, the thief surrendered, dropping the artifact and fleeing into the night. Dylan retrieved the artifact, feeling a surge of triumph as he secured it in his coat pocket. He left the warehouse and returned to the city, the fog lifting as dawn approached. Just as the first rays of sunlight touched the skyscrapers, Dylan awoke on his sofa, the sound of the TV.